Welcome to SVG's Football Directing Masterclass. My name is Ekta Hutton and I head the Broadcast Academy at HBS. I'm joined by Brandon Costa from SVG. Together, we will moderate the session and give you unique insights into the world of football directing. We're joined by top TV directors from three of the world's biggest football leagues, England, France, and Germany. On the panel, we have John Watts and Sarah Cheadle from England, Sigrid Lelièvre from France, and Sebastien von Freyburg from Germany. We spoke to some of them back in May last year to find out how they were dealing with the COVID situation. And today we're going to find out what the new normal looks like. Brandon, you've been watching a lot of football and you had a lot of questions as to what's going on behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. I thank you so much, first off, Ekta, and thank you all for being here. I can't think of a more fun and exciting way to end this year's football summit with SVG Europe than to talk about the art form of storytelling and directing. And boy, do we have a power hitters lineup of people here to speak about it. We'll talk about a few things about what it's been like producing and directing events over the past 12 to 13 months with no fans in the stands, what they hope for in the coming future. So thank you all so much for being here. And Seba, would love to start with you since Germany was, when we rewind the clock back to a year ago, the first one to get back out there. And the Bundesliga drew a lot of attention, even here in the States. Literally every league, the NFL, Major League Baseball, was like, everyone was locked in to what Bundesliga was doing. Now that you are 12 to 13 months into this thing, I'm wondering what it's like from your perspective as a storyteller. Have you almost gotten used to, in a weird way, having no fans in the stands? And how do you anticipate that changing as things maybe evolve over the next handful of months where maybe we're fortunate enough to get a limited number of fans in the stands? How will that impact things like camera cuts, the supplemental audio that was such a big topic of conversation over the past year? How is directing a game like for you right now that we're kind of deeply into this thing?
Many questions. First of all, thanks for the invitation and the very friendly introduction. I think that first of all, we have to say that we have been really lucky and happy that we could produce ever since the last time we met. So all the concepts worked and nobody got, so to say, infected during the working progress. I think that this is first thing to really be really happy about it. And then I would like, when we started with that process and we spoke the last time, it was completely weird to us to work in an empty stadium. And I think that it's really, now it is weird how fast and quickly we adapted. We got used to work in a stadium with no fans. And the other day I was watching a match from before Corona, and I was really wondering what the atmosphere was like. So it is strange, still is strange, but we sort of got used to it. Nevertheless, I think that we're all looking forward to have crowds in the stadium again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Before we shift to England, would love to talk some French first. Sigrid, what's this experience been like for you as someone who's evolving in your career as a director, having this curveball that we've all dealt with? What's the storytelling process been like for you, and how do you feel about things right now?
So I would say that when I talked with Ekta the other day, the first thing I have in mind is like the audio that is really different now. But in a way, as Seba said, we kind of get used to it, and actually, the way it changes is the fact that we hear more what the coach is saying to the teams, and someone is saying, okay, invert 11 and 9, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's interesting it's helping in a way the commentary, and it's helping you also to trying to understand where is going to. And the same, sometimes you can get information shared between the players, so that's really an interesting thing. And what they do in the League One, they broadcast ambience supporter sound in the stadium. So that's kind of something that is a bit weird the first time, but actually you get used to it. But you don't have like the emotion you have when, you know, the tension that, you know, when the people feel that maybe there is a goal opportunity. You don't have that. And I agree with you, Seba. I'm looking forward to have, you know, the supporter, and, you know, when you are in the OB band and you are feeling, you know, all the drums and things like that, that's also part of the experience we all have. And actually, it's interesting, you know, when you are thinking about, you know, remote production, it's something that we are talking more and more about. And so in a way we can we can already experience some things that we might lack of if we go remote, but that's another subject. And the other thing, I know that Ekta, you mentioned the cameras. In France we have the ground cameras, so there is no change in that way. And the other thing that changes the fact that there is no audience is you can put the cameras wherever you want. So maybe those new positions, you know, you don't have to get used to them, because you might have to, you know, to change them or once the audience go back to the stadium. So yeah, overall that's what changed the most for us.
Sure. Yeah. Very interesting. John, next to you, let's go to England. What's this experience been like for you, and how do you feel about where the storytelling process and your ability to direct a football match is right now currently?
I don't think the storytelling has changed much at all. I think you're still looking at the same stories. You know, you've got the relationships between the players, the coaches, and everything else. I don't think that's changed. Obviously, not being able to put in the fan shots and some of the emotion there does alter that, but I don't think the actual game cut is that much different. I think the difference is, and we'll go on to the remote later, is obviously we're not going to the grounds so much, which we can talk about, I'm sure, in another topic. But the other thing is that obviously some of our camera positions have changed, and it is nice to have the new camera positions that were mentioned before that we haven't had before. But some of the key cameras that we like to use, like our camera 3, our midfield camera on the deck, quite near the players, is obviously we're not able to be in that zone because it's a red zone because of the COVID. So we've had to get used to moving those outside and things like that. So that's slightly different. But overall, I think it actually isn't that much different in terms of the actual cut itself. I think you're still looking at the same things.
Yeah, those remote elements, having been able to have the opportunity to talk to many of you over the past couple of days, is an interesting one, because it's sped along so much of this decentralized trend that I think many of you say does have an impact. Like Sigrid, you were just saying, not being able to feel the pulse and the energy of the stadium when you're there in the compound or you're there sitting there in the truck. Sure, it might be saving money on one side, but it does impact, and Seba, you were saying this yesterday, it does have a tangible impact on how the crew maybe performs and how the show maybe comes across. So that'll be interesting to see how that continues to evolve as things do, quote unquote, kind of lean back towards normal. Sarah, your perspective on how things have been so far?
Yeah, to be honest, very similar experience just to what the guys have just said. We have the restrictions in the Premier League with the camera 3 positions and the steady cams. Also, getting information, I think that was briefly mentioned as well. That's been more restricted. Our floor managers can't get in and get the same information off the fourth officials or the benches about substitutions, things like that. So it's kind of like, in that respect, a bit slower process for a lot of things. But yeah, coverage wise, it's been great. To have different sort of positions, go lower. It helps with the rigging as well, because the cameramen don't have to like share equipment. They can just, it helps with the rigging side of it. But again, we don't want to get too comfortable, because hopefully the fans will be back soon and we'll be back to where we were before. But it's certainly been different.
Sure. Real quickly before we shift topics. Oh, Seba, actually, go ahead. Yes,
what I found interesting when John spoke about the storytelling, I found one change since we don't have fans in the stadium. In my opinion, as the players can't interact while celebrating with the fans, they try more and more to find the cameras to celebrate directly into the cameras. And this is interesting. I'm really curious about that, if that stays the same, because right now they know where the cameras are. And also these newer technologies like this the cine style cameras that we are now using more and more, they have an interesting perspective for this, and the players try to find these cameras.
Yeah, and I would love to, we're definitely going to get into all of your thoughts on that as far as the cinema style cameras. La Liga was using that shallow depth of field shot that was being used a little bit over here in the States too in the NFL. We'll definitely get some of your thoughts on some of those technological things. Before we move on to the next question with Ekta, I did want to follow up with you, Sarah. In the next couple of days, you will be directing the Carabao Cup final at Wembley Stadium between Manchester City and Tottenham. Should be a fun day. There might be some fans. We've heard from everyone that we're looking forward to having fans in the stands. So in what ways can you share with the audience, is that impacting your preparation and does it feel tangibly different from preparing for some of the other matches that you've been over the past year?
Yeah, so it's exciting. We're going to have 8,000 fans, 2,000 Manchester City fans, 2,000 Tottenham fans, and then the rest are NHS workers as a sort of thank you to our healthcare system for all the help that they've done.
That's very cool.
So yeah, I sort of, because normally in games like this, so the fans, we have Tottenham fans one side, Man City fans the other. I like to put cameras in where I think they might run to the fans. So it's interesting what Seb was saying in case they do look for their fans. Obviously, Wembley's a 90,000 capacity. We have 8,000 fans. They're all been pushed to the camera side so we can see them at least. So yeah, I have sort of banked on the hopefully run towards their fans a little bit more, celebrate with their fans. So I put reverse positions in for that reason. And then the trophy lift afterwards as well. They are going to present the trophy in front of their fans. So yeah, it's just really thinking about the interaction that they might have with the fans, any sort of celebration shots we have, just to see what the fans will do really. And it's exciting. And the audio as well. I think we're going to have a bit of augmented audio just to help it along. Because like I say, it's a very big stadium. Right. But yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We're very excited to watch that one for sure. Ekta.
Absolutely. I think storytelling is all about a good story to tell and what you need tools to tell it as well. So when you look at your equipment arsenal, what are the favorite tools that you have, like high-speed cameras, replays, AR graphics? What do you do to tell that story? And how do you constantly innovate as well? So that's what I would like to know. And I want to start with John first.
Well, I mean, before you need all the extra equipment, first of all, you need to have the knowledge of what the story is, I think. If there's any stories before the game, any relationships out in the field that make sense, that have connections. So that's the first thing. I think doing your homework on that first before you get into any other toys and anything else. So that's the first thing, to have knowledge of what the potential stories are. And of course, what might happen that you haven't even thought of, and it might just evolve with stuff like that. So it's nice to know where all the key elements are, if they're people in the stands that are relevant to those pictures, as well as the players and the managers, chairman, owners, whatever they might be, as well as anything else.
But with limited access now, John, how are you able to get those stories out? And that's really important because you don't have that access that you did have before.
Well, you've still got cameras that can see all the key elements on the field. You've still got cameras that can see all the players, hopefully. You've still got, obviously, plenty of cameras that can see the benches, so the managers. And if there's anybody at the moment relevant in the stadium, you still should be able to, because we still got reverse cameras and cameras all around the field, see those people. The key is to know where they are. I mean, I had a situation at the weekend. I know one of your beloved teams is Derby County, and they were playing Norwich. And the Norwich owner, quite a well-known lady in England called Delia Smith, and her husband, they're sort of, she's obviously very famous in the food industry. And they basically were in a box. So when Norwich scored and things like that, and they were potentially going to be promoted that day, I had obviously shots of them that were relevant. So it's the similar thing. I think we're okay with all this stuff. We still got cameras that can work it, and obviously your slow-mos and other replays just can enhance that story.
I'm going to go to Sarah. I know, Sarah, we already had a discussion yesterday, so I'd like to touch upon where do you stand on this?
It's interesting actually what John was saying. So it's hard though sometimes. You might know the players or the people that you need, but it's with, I don't know if everyone else with the team arrive as well, with all the masks, and they're so quick, thinking is that him? And it's that gamble, because especially we have certain players like, I don't know, Jack Grealish, for example, would wear a hat, a mask, and you're identifying the eyes and thinking, I'm sure that's him, but you know, you need to be 100% sure before you can make that call. But yeah, we've had a few of those sort of, yeah, let's gamble and do it, and it's paid off. So, but yeah, again, like, it's very similar to what John's saying. You follow the story really, and you base it all around that, what's happening on the pitch. And I mean, I did another Carabao Cup final actually, when we had an incident where Kepa, the goalkeeper, refused to be substituted, and Sarri, the manager, called him off. And not in a million years would you expect anything like that to happen. And it was just gripping. It was fascinating to be there as a storyteller watching that. And it looked at one point, Sarri didn't know the manager did not know what to do with himself. And he was pacing up and down because obviously one of his players was disregarding him. And it looked like he was going to just walk out the stadium for good, walk out potentially on Chelsea. And it was just like, wow, this is incredible. So, right, Josh, you might have all the tools, but the game, as we were talking about before, is so much quicker. Now it's just trying to get all the sort of exciting angles in and replays before the ball's back in play, because as the viewer, everyone wants to see constantly where the ball is. The most important camera is camera one, you know, what's happening on the pitch. Everyone wants to see the match. So it's great to have these supplementary things, but ultimately we need to concentrate on the football.
And what is the new innovation that excites you most in terms of, or you at least wanted to keep working or improve in the near future that will make your life easier?
For me,
yes.
It's not so much a technical, it's more the VAR, because yes, I would say at the moment in England, it's I have to say very controversial. I think people have lost confidence in it. We had one last weekend, extremely controversial, where a goal which to the naked eye looked onside was given offside because they hadn't got an angle which proved where his upper body was.
Marginal decision, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see if the semi-automated offside will be introduced. I think that would really help with the sort of confusion of the fans, especially when fans are back in the stadium. It's really hard because I know sometimes it's on the big screen, but it's just the delay and everything. No one knows what's happening. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to definitely innovation in VAR and maybe even some law changes, but I think that might be pushing it with the Mr. Wenger's offside decisions and stuff. So we'll see.
Exactly. I'm going to go to Seba with this. Seba, I know you've had lots of new technology that you've used, and you're quite excited about it. So do you want to talk a little bit about the cinematic cameras that you mentioned before?
Yes, I like that shallow depth style that Brandon said. We also had some rail cams that are really dynamic. I really like the ultra motions that we have in goals, as the Premier League does. So these are all innovations I really like, and the challenge really is to implement them, even though the game is getting faster and faster. But what I'm really looking forward to is I think that our switcher, as we use it right now with the keys, is a little bit outdated, as we all use touchscreen technology on our smartphones and wherever. I think that in the future we should have a kind of a switcher that is like a big touchscreen with all the pictures of the cameras on them, and you tap directly on the pictures. And then I think that as you have to be more precise nowadays, with much more opportunities from day to day, I think that this could help to be even more precise in the cutting and storytelling.
I think that's already coming in with the lean technologies. And I know John had to quickly learn that on X1, didn't you, John?
Yeah.
When we were in
well, I was thinking that. I mean, the touch screen is, we've done some sort of smaller spec camera matches with the touch screen, and it is quite fun to do it. But I still quite like having the keys, to be honest. When I go back and do a game at an OB, which is only a few times considering all the games we've done, not that many games actually on site, but it's quite nice to have the keys. But I mean, I'm not sure what I'd be like with 30 of them. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know how I'd get on with that if I had to touch them all. But there you go. I've only had sort of 6, 7, 8 it most. So, but Sarah, I don't know if they do that in where you work, whether they have some more. If they, I don't know if they're using touchscreen stuff there at Sky.
No, not really at Sky. No, we're back
No.
to traditional desks, which I'm with you, John. I actually.
Yeah. No, definitely with you there.
Sigrid, I think Sigrid is new blood now, you know, so she's Sigrid,
Yeah.
quite interesting to hear what you have to say.
Oh yeah. So to be honest, the technologies are more I'm interested in right now are more about the datas, and I've heard of a project between Amazon Web Service and I think it was Sports Radar, where they kind of developed that algorithm that was able to predict a goal like 20 or a few seconds before it happens, and if you imagine that there is a development in the virtual augmented reality, you can imagine that this is money time, and when you reach that level of probability, you can integrate personalized advertisement in the picture, things like that. You know, it's just that whole thing that is interesting. And also in France, we have that everybody's I think everybody's aware about what happened in the league and with the rights. And it was a good opportunity for everyone to think about, you know, the economy of the sport and how it is consumed, and the way we are considering, what we like to call the end user, and what are their expectations, how are they changing, and what is in the end the effect in your job as a TV director. So I'm just kind of wondering and trying to understand where the economy is going right now. And of course, what happens in the US is really interesting too. But yeah, so the technologies I'm really interested in right now are everything that's related to the data and things like that.
So it's very interesting to learn from all of you on what is evolving. And I think this is one of the reasons why our live sports director training program in partnership with EVS remains so popular, because they allow our participants not just to see these new tools, but also to learn from the wisdom and benefit from the wisdom of these panelists. So there are courses coming up in London and Paris later in the year. And if you have any more if you need any more information, we're here. You can connect with us on our Broadcast Academy website or connect with us on LinkedIn.
So one thing there, just to say, because I've been lucky enough to do a few of your courses, and obviously the good thing now is that you've got both the sort of the ordinary switches that we normally use in a truck or whatever, and various things, and also the touchscreen. So people who go on that course can actually benefit from seeing both, because I know depending on which countries they are, they have different systems, but they do get a chance to actually have a go at both things, which is quite good for them. I learned from that. I tell you, it was good fun.
Yeah, real quickly before we move on to our next question, Sigrid, I'm kind of curious from your perspective as someone who went through that program. We're talking about how quickly technology is evolving, and football is one of those sports. I almost said soccer. I caught myself. Football is one of those sports that the technology vendors they're the ones that they want to cram their new innovation into because it's the most viewed and it gets the most eyeballs on it. So, having gone through the program that ECTA is talking about, would you today train a young aspiring director differently than maybe you were, with all due respect to the program, which has obviously done wonderful things for your career? But is there anything that you would train a young aspiring director differently today, or do you feel that the core fundamentals remain the same?
As John mentioned it before, the way you are telling the story is basically the same thing, and I think that it was the job was perfectly done during the session. And the thing is, it's not a one-way system; it's a two-way system. And I talked with Laurent Lachon, who was the instructor, and he said that he was adapting his course to the people he had and their previous experience. So really, it's not just, Laurent, it's the whole group and the question and the way we are driving the sessions that are, making that happen. So that's the first point. But for sure, the basic are there, and then you have to practice. And maybe if I had a recommendation is to have different sessions. Like you do a session, and then you can go to the more advanced, because since you had opportunities and you learn on the ground, maybe you have other questions that are arising because you want to focus more on things like that. And what is interesting in the session is just it's not one shot. You are they follow up, and they are wondering about what you're doing, etc. And they are helping if they can. Like if you have any question, you're free to call, and that's really important. It's not just one thing, it's just the whole process.
Got it. No, that makes a whole lot of sense. All right. Well, we're running short on time here as a group, so thank you so much for being here. We want to wrap up on kind of a fun note for the audience, and we'd like to ask each one of you to kind of share maybe one of, if not the most memorable moment in your career, and you feel that maybe impacted you as a director, or one that just really sat with you as an incredible moment, as a storytelling opportunity that you got the chance to be a part of and got the chance to share with the football viewing world. Sarah, would love to start with you. When you think back on your career, what's the memorable moment that stands out for you that I'm sure the audience would love to hear about?
So I thought about this last night, actually, and I've been very, very lucky to be involved in some fantastic things. So I was there when England beat Germany. Sorry, Seba, 5-1. That was fantastic. Did direct it, but I was there in Istanbul when Liverpool beat AC Milan in the Champions League final. Again,
that was a big one.
Unbelievable. But I think for me, if I personally, and I probably shouldn't admit this, so a couple of seasons ago, I did my team Derby with Hector. We were
another Derby connection.
No.
We were in the playoffs, which is so exciting over here. And I put my name down to do the second leg, and we were losing 2-0 from the first leg against Leeds. So I kind of went into it all a bit, oh, this is going to be terrible. Sure. Anyway, in a nutshell, we ended up with one of the best games ever. We won 4-2, went through to the final. And it's one of those, it was building the game, and I could just sense we were going to do it. And then we scored the winner, and I, I'm very unprofessional, but I leapt up in the air and I got the camera 2 for the celeb, give it all that. And I was, if you watch back the coverage, there's a slight jar on camera 2 where I've gone too early. And I was just too busy celebrating. Like I say,
I wish they had a camera. Wish they had a camera in the truck of just you, just let's go.
I know, it was one of those moments, and it doesn't happen very often, especially with Derby, for those of you who know. But yeah, it may be unprofessional, but it was very memorable. Yeah, it was brilliant.
That's awesome. Seba, how about for you?
Yeah, what I think that we all agree that the actual memorable moments are created by the sportsmen themselves. So I think that we are all lucky that we don't have to create these moments. We just have to sort of reveal them or show them. And I think that this is the beauty of our job, that we don't have to invent something at this moment. We just have to show the pure emotion. And those memorable moments are always the sporting moments that I was lucky to be there. Nevertheless, I think that the smaller pieces of storytelling, as John said, storytelling is like our most important job when we do direct matches. And I like all these small pieces that work out when you, for instance, when I did, it's just a small example, but I did an international match between Germany and the US, and Jürgen Klinsmann was the coach of the US. And I knew that he would sing both national anthems, and I knew that, and we showed him during the German and the American anthem, and this was a beautiful little piece of storytelling that I remember, for instance.
That's very, very cool. Sigrid, how about for you?
Well, I'm thinking of two things. I think obviously this year I directed for the first time a League One match, so of course I will remember it my whole life.
That's awesome.
And otherwise, it's not football, but I hope that you excuse me. But this year I directed the games of Brest in the handball women Champions League, and 2 weeks ago I directed the quarterfinals, and that allowed them to reach the semifinals, which is the first time in their career. And actually the team, as we know, it is going to change because many players are going elsewhere, and so it's kind of a very, very important moment, because the team I knew is never going to be the same again, and it's like a page of their history. So I was really happy, as Seba said, to just be there, and in that moment, it's just really happy. So that's my highlight.
That's very cool. And congrats on that first League One match. You never forget your first, like you said.
Ew.
And John, lastly for you, memorable moment in your career.
I'll give you two quick ones. I mean, first of all, Seba talked about the stars of the TV are the players, and I think probably my most favourite goal was Zidane's volley in the Champions League final against Bayer Leverkusen. And first of all, I didn't miss it, which is good. But secondly, I think I could have had about 15. I've never had a goal where I had so many cameras who'd captured it brilliantly. And we could have given you 15, 20 replays of this goal if we had, and it was absolutely great. That sticks in my mind. But the storytelling one would be a Champions League game between Real Madrid and Manchester United at Old Trafford. And at the time, manager Sir Alex Ferguson was having a few personal problems with David Beckham. They'd fallen out a little bit, and David hadn't started, and he came on. And United were behind, but Beckham scored to bring them nearer. And there was a free kick right near the end to basically level it up and would have got them to go through. And it was a difficult free kick. And obviously Bex took it. And he actually clipped the outside of the bar. Cutting up David initially, first of all, I cut up Sir Alex, who his reaction was almost like he'd made a mistake. David had made a mistake. He was so disappointed. And I remember it because I read Beckham's autobiography some years later, when he described, actually went home and saw this image and decided then he had to leave United.
Like your fault, John.
Any Manchester United fans out there, I'm really sorry if that was the case, but I'm sure that gone back then. But it's just funny to see something you've done and actually something a player actually refer to it some years later. You think, my goodness, oh God, help us. But there you go.
With great power comes great responsibility, right? Well, John, Seba, Sigrid, Sarah, thank you so much. It's been an honor to get the chance to talk to you about the art of directing, especially at such a unique time in the history of world football. And Ekta, thanks so much for being a part of this, and thanks for letting us do it as well. We certainly encourage you to check out more of the Broadcast Academy that Ekta mentioned earlier, especially if you're a young and aspiring director who wants to do this for a living in the future. There's some wonderful learnings there, so you can head on over to the site. Again, she mentioned that there would be courses held this fall in both Paris and London, so feel free to take advantage of that. In the meantime, it's been a wonderful day here at SVG Europe's Football Production Summit, and I'm very excited to send things back to Natalie Quirk to take us home for the day. Thanks so much.